So before we sit down, I'm going to introduce everybody. Welcome, Mr. Andrew Saxa.
Thank you, Laura.
Awesome.
Hey, how about a real quick round of applause to White Glove, for just an amazing event.
Thank you.
You bet.
So sweet. So Andrew is with Reminder Media.
I'm with Reminder Media. If you don't know us, we've been doing this for about 20 years, helping you strengthen the relationship with your existing core client, generate more referrals, increase your assets under management. This is one of our tools.
Awesome. Thank you. And Suzanne Carawan of NAFA. Would you tell us a little bit about NAFA and what we do?
NAFA is the National Association of Insurance and Financial Advisors. All the stuff that I think that we were talking about with keeping everything tax-free, that legislative risk, for 134 years we've been making sure that your clients make sure that they keep their money. So that's what we do, and we need your help.
Awesome. Thank you. And welcome Andre Henson of C2P. Tell us what you do.
Yeah, at C2P, our mission is to simplify the financial planning process for both advisors and clients alike. And our main tool that we do that with is with our bucket plan.
Awesome. Okay, guys, let's pick a seat and let's
Okay.
chat. I guess I'll sit.
Are you in the hot seat
I'm
there?
going to sit in the hot seat.
Got it.
It's not the high seat. Suzanne was worried it was going to be
I
a
was-
high seat. I was
was-
worried it was going to be a high seat.
Sweating bullets.
Okay. All right, so guys, what I wanted to do here is just talk a little bit about these client meetings, because I think each of you bring some thought leadership, some good ideas, some takeaways that these guys will probably get today are, how can I be more intentional in my client meetings? How can I differentiate myself? How can I keep clients happy? How can I keep them coming back? What can I say that is different from what everybody else is saying? So I was just kind of thinking about that, like when we're thinking about client meetings, what is most important that we're doing at those client meetings? Maybe I'll just start with you, Andre, because I love the idea of the bucket plan. C2P has been a longtime partner of ours. What is it that we're trying to accomplish in client meetings? When you talk about the bucket plan, why is that so effective?
I'd say there's two reasons. The first is, and this goes for all of our advisors that are using our bucket planning, I'm guessing some of you are already doing a form of it. I like to joke that we didn't invent it, we just wrote the book on it. So the most important thing is going to be a confused mind cannot make decisions. So that's why simplicity is going to be the ultimate sophistication.
I love it. And that's, I mean, I think that's a good point that we've heard before, and we're going to hear a theme of that again and again. Confusion is not what sells, simplicity sells. So to have a successful client meeting, you need some successful tools. How many, I'm curious, is anybody in here using the bucket plan? Is this something that you talk, yeah, okay. And I bet there'll be more, because what the purpose of the bucket plan is just taking some really complicated ideas that you guys are very comfortable with and making it easy for those of us who are not good at all the stuff you do as an advisor, making it easy for us to understand. So again, one thing that you want to do to make client meetings successful is to simplify and to keep those clients coming back because they understand and they feel empowered to make good choices. All right, I'm going to pick on you for a minute, Suzanne. What are you seeing in the field that advisors can do in a client meeting to kind of differentiate themselves or do something different?
Yeah, so I'll go from a standpoint, because I heard a couple of people say like, oh, advocacy, that's somebody else, whatever. It's not, I'm not of interest to me. I'm here to make money. But what our members do really successfully is they actually use advocacy as a marketing vehicle. And it goes something like this. They say, hey, you see this pin right here? What this pin means is that I am part of the National Association of Insurance and Financial Advisors, a 20,000 person strong group that makes sure that your wealth is protected at the state and federal levels. And it also says that I'm under a code of ethics. So I'm here to put your best interest forward. And if you don't believe me, here's a little picture behind me with our senator or our representative where I've gone and I've met with him personally. And I want you to know I'm personally involved in the process to make sure that your voice is heard, because they're going to meet with us, they listen to us, and we're going to make sure that you take care of us. So if I'm going to have to tell you right now, there's 2 or 3 times out of the year I'm not going to be available for you, because I'm either going to be in the State House or I'm going to be on Capitol Hill fighting for you. So is that going to be okay with you? And that really differentiates the advisor, right? So being able to have that, and then what they also do is then they follow up and they take their photo of Capitol Hill or meeting with their senator or at their State House, and they send them out as postcards, they send them out as social media, they put them on their website, and it's like as much as they can to tell them, hey, listen, I'm the advisor that gets off my duff and goes and actually does something for you. All the other ones around here are these like freeloaders who don't actually, they're just, on the backs of what we're doing, but I actually participate and pay into the system for our professional association, which is protecting my business, but also your wealth. And that's one of the ways that our advisors do that.
That's awesome. So, and then one of the things that I think is really important, and I've heard some creative ideas from some of you guys that I've been talking to, you're looking for some thought leadership, right? How often, I'm curious to you guys, how often do you do client meetings a year? Who's got an answer? Two? Two client meetings a year. Anybody do more than two? Is that pretty standard? Okay. And so what typically are you trying to do in that client meeting? What's your standard rigmarole that you do every single time? I'm looking at you. Don't let me down.
Review their accounts, beneficiary forms.
Okay. Reviewing their accounts, beneficiary forms, life insurance, making sure if there are any changes, you're updating that. We heard the talk about the estate plans and stuff, right? Ask for referrals. Okay. That can be hard. That last piece is kind of part of what I was leading to as well. And so what does it take to make you referable? What does it take to make that client meeting more meaningful for you, right? If you're just sitting down saying, let's go through your plan, anybody have an idea of what you can do to make you more referable? Smart marketers out there, I just know it.
If it was me, I'd sign up with Reminder Media.
There it is.
Okay? And here's the idea. Like when I met you guys a long time ago, and we've been listening to you speak, and every time I hear about that, don't be forgettable.
Right.
Right? And what are you doing for thought leadership? What are you doing to show your people that you're staying in touch with the industry, that you're keeping them top of mind, but that they also can keep you top of mind? So this is what that thought leadership is what we need. So when we're thinking about that, and I think of Reminder Media, and if you guys don't know, Andrew showed you his book that they do. This is a magazine that they produce, and they put your face on it, and they do a great job of giving you remember how we talked about all those touch points? It's so great to have a touch point that you don't have to do, but keeping you in touch is the job of that. And it's branded to the advisor, right?
You bet.
Yeah. So, go ahead.
Can I jump in? So real quick, show of hands. Who believes they're in the relationship business? Show of hands. If you didn't raise your hand, you might be in the wrong room. So how do you make a great client meeting? How do you turn somebody into a raving fan for your business so they give you that referral that you talked about, right? Here's a couple statistics that always jump out at me. 58% of high net worth clients found their financial advisor through their friend, through referral. And you're 400% more likely to become your client if they met you through a referral. So how do you get liked, known, and trusted, stand out from all your competition, and do it where it's turnkey, it's cost effective, and it has high impact? And that's what we do. We help you stay connected with your most important relationships at the relationship level, connecting to both halves of that household, connecting to that next generation. We have $70 trillion, I believe, going from the baby boomer generation to the next generation. How do you get in front of those folks before they receive that wealth? Only 2% of children that inherit that wealth keep their parents' advisor. 2%. 98% of the time, they fire you right from the jump. And the reason why that happens is they don't know you. You haven't established a relationship. You haven't connected with them at a relationship level. We talk a lot about, do you know your client's Ford? We'll use an acronym, right? We love acronyms in the business. So let's talk about Ford, the Ford method. Do you know your client's family, occupation, recreation, and dreams? Because if you can tap into that, connect with them at that level, I promise they're going to be a raving fan for your business. They're going to not only stay with you forever, but they're going to refer everybody that they know to you guys. So when I think about that initial How do you make a client experience really great? I want to stand out from my competition. I loved what you were talking about. He's on his phone. Come on, man, party foul. I love the fact that when you were talking, you talked a lot about the fact that you want to do something, you want to give somebody a gift without expecting anything in return. That literally is our specialty. We believe that you should stay connected with your client on a consistent basis by giving them a gift and then maybe even showcasing something that's important to them. If you knew your client had a great relationship with a church, a charity, a foundation, and you showcase that on the back of the gift that you're going to give them with no expectation whatsoever for the return, and you send it to them, I promise they're going to be a raving fan for your business. They're absolutely going to share that magazine with everybody that they know, and they're going to help you grow your business.
So I want to jump in on that because one of the other things, so on the NAFA side, we're also supposed, part of it is driving the industry and looking at thought leadership of what we can do at the industry level because we play an important role. We are the voice of the producer, but we actually, within our midst, we go from everything from P&C all the way through wealth management. So we run the gamut of types of agents and advisors. But one of the things that's a real homogenous thread that we've really picked up on is using the role of caregiver. And it's a multi-generational game changer. So here's how that works. So if you think about, I actually have a little stat here, play a little game. What do you think the average age in the United States is when most people become a caregiver? Just shout out some answers.
When women become
Someone, an individual, becomes a caregiver of another human. 55? 62?
40.
49.4. That changes your entire framework, doesn't it? So the typical now age is 49.4. If you're 49, what are you doing in life? Do you probably are married? Do you probably have kids? Are your parents still living? So that caregiver, that conversation of what is the caregiver is what we've really been opening up because it's really multi-generational. And that caregiving, when you put it in with a client meeting, you can actually use another fun statistic that I love. And to me, this is a complete opener. So in the United States right now, last year, 2.6 million children under the age of 19 went to the emergency room because of a sports-related or recreational-related injury. 2.6 million under 19.
My kid.
Okay, so there's a really cheap insurance product you can get out there called Life Secure that handles this for like $140 a month. You cover the family of 4. It's an easy little commission. But the more important thing is when you start talking about children who have some sort of sports-related incident, somebody's taken them to the emergency room, right? So they got parents, and the likelihood is they have grandparents. And so if you start opening a conversation, you start talking about that, and you get into their sports, and that was one of your things on the forward, the recreation, you just open up the entire conversation. Because as soon as you start talking about children and sports, you just hit multi-generational, and guess what? You just hit birth, college planning, retirement planning. You hit all the kind of facets you can kind of do, and you can open that up. And we've actually been talking to Asset Map about how does that look, right? When you add that into it's a really nice warm way to have the client meeting as well, right? Because it shifts it off of like, okay, so let's talk about death and what your settlement's going to be. You can come back to, okay, what's the legacy? What's the living part, right? How do we do that? And so those are some fun facts, I think, to put out there. But we've been really pushing caregiving, and especially, anybody heard about the Washington CARES Act? Anybody aware of what's happening in the long-term care world? Is that big for the government? And everything that's going to happen for long-term care? How many people really have enough money for long-term care for themselves? Right? It's a huge piece. So there's retirement, and that retirement can be blown like that with a long-term care or short-term incident that you had not planned for. And most people don't have it, and most advisors don't get into long-term care. They kind of stop right there. They've been taught. So that whole area is blowing up, and we want to make sure that we have that conversation too. But you can't really have a great long-term care conversation without the next generation. Right? So you got to come in and say, who's going to be the caregivers, and what does that look like, and what do your parents want, what do they want, and what do you want for them? So that's another kind of tip for the client meeting about coming out from a caregiving kind of piece of it. We call it the caregiving economy. We've got a lot of information on it in NAFA.
I think, and this is something I really wanted you to touch on, so I'm so glad you brought it up, because guys, how many in here, how many people, raise your hand if you identify as a caregiver? Anybody? Sandwich generation?
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I know I do, and I can tell you what, I've got my own kids, and I've got my parents, and they're all pushing about 80, and I've got my in-laws pushing about 80. If you don't identify as a caregiver after she just spoke about it, rethink it. Because here's the thing, you're going to be taking care of somebody very soon, right? Or you're going to be taken care of. And this is what I mean when we're thinking about these client meetings. You can say, oh yeah, let's come in, let's review your plan, any different changes in your life, any new designations, beneficiaries. Yeah, you can do that. But that gets to be kind of stale, right? And does that, and you mentioned that, oh yeah, that intergenerational wealth transfer.
You bet.
Oh, how are we going to tap into that? Maybe if I start asking you, let's talk a little bit about caregiving. Are there some people that you're currently taking care of? What is your care plan? What is your care strategy? Does your family know, right? And you just saw estate planning. We just saw how important that is. Do you see how you can kind of flip that conversation a little bit, the way Suzanne's talking about it, and just start talking about caregiving? And what does that do? What happens if you start talking about caregiving? You're tapping into those next generations, the contiguous generations. And that gives you an opportunity to bring more people in your office for very good reasons. So I love that. That was a light bulb idea for me the first time I heard you say it. And if you don't already feel comfortable with that conversation, I hope you hit Suzanne up about that later, because I absolutely think estate planning workshops is a great way for you guys to tap into these new things. That's something you can definitely talk about in your client meetings. It's going to be different. And then also caregiving, talking about caregiving, because how are things going to be managed? How are people going to be notified? Who's on your team? That is some seriously good thought leadership to help you tap into that future generation or the next folks.
Yeah.
So, and again, featuring them the way you're talking about, like, I just want this turnkey system to be so easy for people to just say, yeah, just like, Brad, what are your plans? Oh, I got this, 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 and this. Great, I'll take one of those. Perfect. Okay. I would just love for you, Andre, to jump in too.
And I was just going to say, off of that, I think it's so important that we're talking about the next generation and the wealth transfer that is going to take place. One of the things that we're using with our bucket plan is our family estate organizer. And I love that you mentioned that too. If you're not already utilizing this in your process, this should be something that you're having with every client meeting. Like, what does the next stage look like? And through one of our tools, the family estate organizer, we can actually go through and find those opportunities, have those conversations, and it should be an exciting thing. Like, here are the assets, here are the things that we can take advantage of now, here are the things that your kids can take advantage of later. We're talking about these opportunities and just bringing the whole family together.
And I think I'll make a plug for, I think there's so much emphasis on the 10,000 people turning 65 a day. Listen, there's 2 billion millennials on the planet. So, and the top millennials are 40. They're not exactly young, okay? So, I mean, they're 40 and they have wealth. I mean, they're out there and I think they get skipped over all the time. Now, I personally am a Gen Xer and everybody skips us. So, but we're out there. I mean, we're used to it, but I mean, you can, think about that. And then our children are the centennials, right? And there's 2.4 billion of them. So they're coming and they're coming fast. And, also thinking about coming in, and we were talking about getting juniors in your practice and things like that. The people coming out now, we were talking about being upskilled. Now they're coming out for me. One of the fastest growing things, that we work on, is making sure that there's financial literacy requirements for every state to graduate from high school. So NAIF is a big part of pushing that. We're really proud that we've done a lot of work. The second part is also making sure that right now there's universities and colleges are putting in insurance and financial planning tracks like crazy. So people coming out of these schools are much more upskilled, ready to work, et cetera. And so I'm just giving you a heads up because, like, if you have a son like mine who's, so my father died earlier this year in January and didn't exactly set up with a great plan. It was a typical silent generation, didn't want to talk about it, was too proud, had no plan, and I was left with kind of a mess. So my 19-year-old is very smart. He's like, so what do I get, right? So he wants to know, what's the plan for us, and what are we going to do? And he's like, well, what about a 10 pay, okay? The kids had stuff in school, so they're coming in much smarter, and they want to know what my portfolio is and what the balance is, et cetera. So just a heads up of what's to come. I think sometimes when I see in our own member base, we get a little bit siloed in only looking at I know everybody wants the baby boomers, but like there's a whole other world out there. The baby boomers don't know it, but there is. And so that whole other world is there. And like things like that, by the way, another plug to Andrew, you know what millennials love that has been shown as a study? They love direct mail and they love magazines and catalogs because they grew up as digital natives and it's like fun and new and they're like, oh, I can like fold it and do stuff with it. And so just something to think about. That's a big one, especially for prospecting, getting out in front of them and into their households where they are very busy, et cetera. And they're already inundated with digital, something you can really stand out with print.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Well, and Brad was saying, another thing you can talk about in your client meetings to, that they might not see it coming. I just learned is get your kids a Roth IRA. Oh, okay.
Sure.
Wow, what a great idea. Should we be having that conversation with everybody? Are you? Is everybody already having that? Because did you take that as a note? Like, yeah, let me go back. In my next client meeting, I'm going to ask, do you have a Roth IRA for all of your kids? Yeah. And here's how we set that up. It didn't sound very hard, right?
And who do you think those clients, kids and grandkids are going to work with once the parents pass away? The person that's been helping them and setting up accounts, or someone new?
Yeah.
It's going to be the person that's been working with them throughout this time before the bad thing happens.
Well, and especially if you get to know the kids, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So my advisor, smart enough to like follow my kids and like, was looking at our stuff and like, why do you have no money? I'm like, well, they play lacrosse. Well, you need to save for college. Well, they play lacrosse. I'm like, no, they play competitive lacrosse. And so they had to really adjust because I wasn't the cookie cutter piece that fit in. But then once they saw, like, they got on the bandwagon, right? Like, oh my gosh, they went through the recruiting process with us. And now they send cards and now they're part of the whole thing. If you can be that raving fan, they're gonna stay. My kids are gonna stay with her because of that reason.
Yeah. So smart plans, and I'm just curious, as you're hearing, guys, are there any ideas that you have that you are using in a client meeting that you'd like to share with the group? Just something different that maybe not everybody else is doing. I'd love to hear if you guys have any suggestions as well. I think I've gotten some golden nuggets here from some of the stuff that we've heard already. And I guess the big thing too is just thinking about the intergenerational wealth transfer. I feel like this is something we hear a lot, but you can go into a client meeting, something you do kind of by rote every couple of or twice a year. You don't think about this stuff. And so this is what we're looking for, is how to keep those good for you so you can get more referrals. And I know you guys are talking a lot about referrals. Can you just share a little bit about that part of your business and what you're seeing?
100%. Yeah, so it's funny. Frank Maselli is absolutely a genius, and you guys are so lucky to hear Frank again tomorrow. I love Frank because of the fact that he brings up one of the greatest points ever about referrals, right? Your industry teaches everybody in the world when is the best time to ask for a referral. When you first open the account, right? That's pretty common. Frank always uses the analogy that would be the worst time, and here's why. Because if you asked for the referral when they first open the account, it'd be the same thing as if you walked somebody up to the door after you had a blind date, and the blind date was fantastic. As you walked them up to the door, you said, did you have a good time? I sure did. Hey, who's 3 or 5 other people that you think would also like dating me? Right? I mean, what a crazy time.
That's a good
to ask for
strategy
a
if it
referral.
works.
Yeah, I mean, if you can get away with it, Frank probably could. I definitely can't. So here's our strategy to help you with the referral. And again, I think back to that client meeting, right? That's a great time to ask for the referral. We have a strategy that says, hey, look, if you just gave somebody a gift, right? And this is what this is, right? It's customized to them. Happy birthday, happy anniversary. It's truly a gift. You just gave them a gift. And now you reach out to that client. You said, hey, I was just thinking about you. I thought there was a great recipe. I think you guys would absolutely love it. Hey, let me ask you something. Who's a couple friends that you can think of that I can send a gift to? Now, who's a couple people I can sell? Who's a referral that I can turn around and sell? right here, right now, who's a couple of your friends that I could reach out to and just send them a gift? I promise you, the rule of reciprocity will absolutely kick in. And here's a statistic for you that I think is also pretty interesting as well. 70% of high net worth investors are more than happy, thrilled to give you a referral. But you only ask for the referral 11% of the time. And I promise you, it's exactly what Frank's talking about. It's weird, it's awkward. Let's make it less weird, let's make it less awkward. Give them a gift, follow up the gift, and then ask them who's a couple of friends to send the magazine to. I promise, people are good, they'll give you those referrals.
So I'll just kind of close with this and picking up with that. I'm tying it back to advocacy. So what our members do is they say, listen, as you remember, when we first started talking, I'm a NAIFA member. I'm very proud of my professional association. And I just want to remind you that part of our mission at NAIFA is to go out and protect more Americans like you. Can you help me with my mission and getting more Americans the right insert investment strategy, risk protection product, whatever you want to there, because that is really important for me and that's my why, and that's what I'm doing with my practice every day. How would you feel about introducing me to some other people to help me get to my mission and get a stronger American economy? And here's the Rolodex, right? It works like a charm. So that's one of the things. I'm glad you brought that up because I would have forgotten that. Yeah.
Awesome.
It's
I'm
like,
here for you, Susan.
yeah, exactly. Such good partners.
All right, guys, we are about done with our time, but I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for joining me
you.
up here and giving some good ideas.
Thanks.
Thank you.